Okay, so I'm sitting here. I just made a video talking about spiritual gifts. And one thing that I didn't touch on, I'm gonna lift myself up a little bit because I don't want y'all seeing my pudgy. Listen, one thing that I didn't touch on was being intellectually gifted in school. I touched on it a little bit. I did. But I'm doing some research here, and I really wanted to look into the program, like the gifted program in my state, Tennessee. It's blowing my fucking mind. So listen, intellectually gifted. This is on Tennessee Department of Education's website. Intellectually gifted means a child whose intellectual abilities, creativity, and potential for achievement are so outstanding that the child's needs exceed differentiated general education programming. It affects their educational performance and requires specifically designed instruction or support services. Now, this is children from all populations that can be found to possess these abilities. Children who are identified as intellectually gifted are exempted from the discipline procedures. It's two different codes, two different procedures that they have listed. Procedure codes they have listed that they say the children are exempted from. When I looked those codes up, it says authority of school personnel. So pretty much, disciplining the children the way that you discipline regular children, like going, being suspended or being displaced, putting into alternative schools, all that type of stuff. Gifted children are exempted from it, which I don't understand because they wasn't following the rules at my school because I was suspended a few times. But this is why, listen, they are exempted from that sort of authority and that sort of discipline because they understand the mentality, is what they say. Some gifted characteristics: they have an unusually keen sense of humor. Humor used for critical attacks becomes the class clown for attention. All of these I can relate to. I'm finna just break it down for y'all. Idealistic standards and sense of justice. Unrealistic expectations and goals. Intolerant towards others and very self-critical. Intensity. Eagerness that disrupts others. Easily frustrated with inactivity. Intense feelings, energy, and eagerness. They're literally describing me as a child. It's crazy. Intensified self-awareness and feelings of being different. Self-imposed isolation and rejection. Emotional and social growth inhibited due to feelings of being different. Unusual amounts of information. They get easily bored, get impatient with the perceived slowness of others. Enjoys intellectual activities and elevated levels of comprehension. Perceived as disrespectful by adults. Resists repeated drill work. Flexible thought process and conceptualized thinking. They question teachers' procedures, have a low tolerance for deadlines and chronological thinking, may reject what is already known. I'm going to keep going, but just to break this down and express like my experience. For one, I touched on it a little bit, just like isolation, intensified self-awareness and feelings of being different. I had a strong sense of self-awareness. I knew who the fuck I was. I just knew me. I knew what was going on inside of me, and I also was very sensitive to others. So I would isolate myself, which as I got older, this just turned into like a difficulty with being social, and it still, plagues me to this day. Easily bored, gets impatient with other people's slowness. Yes. For one, like, you have to continue to give me something. Otherwise, I'm ready to go to the library while they finish doing their work because this shit is too easy. Perceived as disrespectful by adults. I was disrespectful because they were trying to dumb me down. Like, I knew that I was too big for the space that I was in. I was way too big for the fucking space. They had me doing shit that didn't make sense. I knew it didn't make sense, and I challenged it at every single turn because it wasn't right for me. Questions teachers' procedures. I was a why ass kid. Well, why? That don't make sense. Well, why is that the rule? And generally what I got back was that's just the way that it was. Or when I would step ahead of the curve, they would just try to gaslight me into believing that I wasn't experiencing, that I didn't know what the fuck I knew. This is why, like, school, I loved school, but it wasn't that I loved school. I loved learning for the sake of learning. I loved taking in information. I was highly gifted and highly thirsty for knowledge and wisdom. So I excelled in school, but school was actually not good for me at all. So when people talk about, like, when I make the decision to homeschool my children, it's a highly thought out decision. It's based on facts. It's based on experience of being in these schools as somebody who is different and being forced into a mold, even though I know I'm too big for that mold. I'm way too big for that mold. So I would question everything. May reject what is already known, because who said that this is the fucking truth? Who said that this is the truth? Who wrote this? I was already on that mentality as a young one. And why? Oh, you can't tell me why. Well, why should I trust you? When you display this type of thing, like in schools, I feel like you get placed in a certain category. Whatever, I'm gonna keep on going. Intellectual domain. Able to absorb unusual amounts of information and excellent memory. I had what was considered like photographic memory. This is why I was acing tests, because I can look, especially those young books. Like when I was younger, that shit was so, I would look in the book, I could remember what was there. And when I'm doing my test, I just have the visual in my mind of the fucking book. It was like an open book test. Able to absorb unusual amounts of information. I'm still like that. Excellent memory. Boredom with the regular curriculum and impatient when required to wait for other members of the group. Very. And that also developed into me just wanting to work alone, because I'm already done and I'm ready to go. I'm ready to fucking go. Get me somewhere else. Okay? Elevated levels of understanding. Difficulty getting along with same age peers, perceived as disrespectful by adults and peers, and a dislike of repetition. Yeah, I was definitely perceived as disrespectful, even at home, like, because my brain was all the way out there somewhere. When my parents would try to talk to me at sometimes, it's like, yo, meet me where I'm at, because you ain't getting it. You ain't getting it. And it came off harsh and it came off brash because I was highly frustrated. And due to the amount of intense emotion, the intense feeling, like I'm a very intense person, it came out very passionate, which can be perceived as disrespectful. Sizable and unique variety of interest and curiosity. Difficulty agreeing with the group. Tendency to take on too many tasks. I got a plate full of unfinished projects. Like, yeah, okay, anyway. Advanced levels of language development, characterized as a show-off. That's the story I was telling y'all about the librarian she had that energy. Like, why? First, you must have already read this book, and why you keep raising your hand? So at some point, I had developed this thing where I just be quiet. I be knowing the answer, but I just be quiet. Because I don't want to come off as knowing it too much. For one, that put a target on your back when you know too much. And for two, it just be rubbing people the wrong way, because it brings out an inferiority complex in other people. So I just developed this mask where I just act like I don't know shit. Okay. Characterized as a show-off due to questioning and amount of information shared. Uses verbal skills to manipulate and avoid tasks. Advanced ability in processing and speed of thoughts. Dislike of repetition. Low tolerance for inactivity and lack of progress. Flexible ways of thinking. Perceived as disruptive as well as disrespectful toward authority and traditional thinking. Early ability to learn for the sake of learning. Refusal to seek interesting areas of study if proof of learning is required. Advanced ability to understand unusual and varied relationships. Misjudged by others who view their ideas as off-topic or lacking value. Oh man, the relationships I've been in. Okay, anyway. Ability to produce advanced or original ideas and solutions in unique ways or advanced for age. Frustration from penalties for not following specific directions. This is why I'm an entrepreneur. This is why jobs didn't work out for me for too long, because I am a very innovative person. So when you bring me a system, I'm going to learn that system very quickly. I'm going to learn the ins and outs of it very quickly, and I'm going to see the loopholes, and I'm going to see the pitfalls. I'm going to see how this is not helping people, how it is helping people, and I'm going to want to expand on that, and I'm going to want to brush the other parts to the side. But when you're working for a corporation that is sticking to a system for financial gain, they don't care about your innovation. They don't care about you trying to make it easier on the customer or whatever the case. They want you to stick to what's tried and true. And for me, what's tried and true doesn't mean it isn't always the best thing to do. It may have worked in a season. It may work for a time period, but as we develop and we change and as we grow, we have to be willing to shift so that we can get better. I was always a very progressive thinker, but being in entry-level positions, they don't want me to be a progressive thinker. They want me to be a good worker. They want me to follow instructions. I make instructions. I'm not an instruction follower. I've never been an instruction follower. I'm the motherfucker who's making them. I've always had that mentality. So I would get frustrated from penalties, especially at work, because why y'all writing me up for doing things different when I know it's better, and y'all know it's better, but it ain't following the rules. Be fucking for real. Be fucking for real. Anyways, that happened in school too. Easily assorted patterns of thinking frequently rejects or omits details and questions generalizations of others. Oh goodness. Early ability to use and create visionary plans. Frustration when others do not comprehend or appreciate their originality and insights. Consistently evaluating self and others, perceived as too critical of others. Self-criticism, which may result in development of resistance and attempting anything new for fear of failure. Seen as too demanding in terms of expectations of others. Okay. Affective social domain. Heightened sensitivity to the expectations and feelings of adults and peers. High sensitivity to criticism of others. Increased need for success and recognition. Intensified self-awareness and feelings of being different. Feelings of rejection due to awareness of being different. Personal and social growth restrained due to feelings of being different. Unusually keen sense of humor, gentle or hostile. Humor used for critical attacks resulting in poor relationships. I'm sorry, that's not funny. I done said some shit, man. I done said some shit. Anyway, early ideal standards and sense of justice, frustration from unrealistic reforms and goals, early formation of a belief that they have control over the outcome of events in their lives. Considers external validation unnecessary and may be viewed as a challenge to authority or tradition. Nonconformist, self-directed, and original. Rare emotional depth and intensity. Highly sensitive. High expectations of self and of others. Frustration from self-imposed criticism, difficulty maintaining positive relationships, inactivity created by frustrations resulting from high expectations, increased sense of right and wrong, rejection as the result of intolerance and lack of understanding from peers, potential for feelings of rejection and or aloneness, intense motivation to realize one's potential. At a young age, this is what I'm talking about when I say I had depth as a child. And it was an intense motivation to realize one's potential. Dissatisfaction from not feeling challenged. This will result in poor behavior. When I was in certain schools, I remember when we moved from Goodlettsville to the projects out east, Settle Court. I call them Settle Court. I used to call them Settle Court. I think it's Settle Court. Anyway, out east. We moved to these projects and I went to this new school. And before I went to this school in second grade, y'all, I was just a happy-go-lucky, sweet kid. I still had some of these things going on for sure. But when I moved to this school, I became highly disrespectful. I was fighting all the time. I was really into some shit. And it was because this school was a lower level. I wasn't being challenged because I was in classes with children who, they just weren't advanced. I mean, they were very low income. We were in the projects. So they were catering to these children being dumb when really these children needed to be challenged too so that they can take a step up. That's a whole nother fucking discussion. But for myself, that's when my dark side really came out in second grade. That's when I really started pushing it, and I started whooping asses. And I started, I just became very aggressive because I was fucking bored. I was not being challenged. And y'all had me in a classroom that felt like a jail. Okay. I'm going to try to hurry up because I'm on 10% and I don't have a charger. Increased sense of right and wrong. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Dissatisfaction from realization of lost opportunities with unrealized talents. That's to this day. Heightened cognitive and effective ability to conceptualize and solve societal problems. Tends to be an impulsive decision maker without analyzing the complexity of the problem. Young age tends to make his or her proposed ideas suspect to others. People used to look at me like not taken seriously by the more experienced decision makers. There were so many times I was in the room with the people that were making decisions. I was on the superintendent's team of scholars in high school. The superintendent of our district had selected few children. This was senior year of high school, junior and senior year. So they selected a few of us, literally maybe 10, if that, to pretty much have discussions with us about the school and about our experience and whatnot. And I remember being at that table, y'all, and speaking so much power and so much truth, and it being just pushed to the side, nah, that ain't gonna work. That happened to me so much, and it's so triggering because really the problem be that people don't be seeing the vision, and I'm a visionary, so that means that I'm thinking things that are outside of the box, and people that are trained to be in the box, they oftentimes don't see it. Intuitive creative domain. Early involvement in and concern for intuitive knowing. Perceived as unusual or strange. Obvious creative expression. Sometimes seen as a troublemaker or defiant. Perceived as curious. Abstract, complex, logical, insightful thinking. Routine tasks result in boredom. Difficulty in accepting what they view as illogical. If it don't make sense, I don't want to do it. If it don't make sense, it don't make sense. But if it don't make sense, nah. Highly developed curiosity, need for independence of thought, need for complexity, highly developed fluency of thought, maybe indecisive due to wanting to consider as many ideas as possible before making a decision. Yeah. Originality of thought and expression, resists rules and wants to do things that no one else does. What can we do for gifted learners? Class grouping, skipping grades or entering school or college earlier. I mean, none of that shit. I just needed a different type of school. I needed a freedom school. I needed a school where I could just be myself. I needed Hogwarts. I needed fucking Hogwarts, okay? Shit, man. And I didn't have that. And the fact that they know all of this, they don't want people like this. They'll keep an eye on you. They'll keep an eye on you to watch you. But they don't want people like this because they have a system and they want to maintain their system. So when they analyze children who are gifted, they shift them down a path. They push them down a path that is outside of their own. I remember being in the counselor's office in 10th grade where we choose our pathways. There was the hospitality pathway. There was the STEM pathway. There was the art and writing, whatever pathway. So many different ones. The JROTC pathway, right? Where they give us the options for our life. I didn't really fit with any of them, but I liked a little bit of all of them. But I made the decision that, okay, I want to go into writing and journalism because I have original thought and expression, and I want to be able to express what I feel and what I know. So I'm sitting in a counselor's office and she's like, well, your test scores are amazing. the counselor and the principal, your test scores are amazing in science and math, and we really think you will be great in STEM. I'm listening to her, and I start to feel overwhelmed with emotion, and I begin to cry, like uncontrollably crying, because I feel them forcing me into a different direction. That's not my direction. Yes, I understand science and math and all of those things are great, but this is where I need to go. When I tell you I want to be a journalist, when I tell you I want to write, when I tell you I'm into art and music and these things, they are trained to push me over here. Oh, we want more Black girls in the STEM field and to become doctors and engineers and jump into technology and all of this shit. That's not who I am, and I know who I am. So they are directly, because they have been trained to do so. Her heart was good because she was crying in the office with me. Like, we was crying together. I was highly emotional to the fact that they were shifting my experience of life towards something other than what I knew I was here to do. I'm here to speak. My name is Parishie. The word Parishie comes from Parisia. My parents don't know this, but I know this. It comes from Parisia, which is a Greek word that means to speak boldly, to speak truth to power. If you look up that word, Malcolm X's face is going to be next to it. That's who I am. And I've always knew who I was. And I've always had extremely opposing, strong, innovative thoughts and words. And that has always rubbed people the wrong way or inspired people for change. But these systems aren't meant for change. They're meant to stay the same. So people like me, especially when we're thrown into a system, a school system, we get brushed to the side, we get swept under, and then because we know that we're different and we're unappreciated in these spaces, we go into isolation. We don't develop socially the way that we would if we had the freedom. We struggle socially. So the gifted child is also the clairvoyant child. It's also the clairaudient child. You know, it's the child that could tap into telepathic gifts. If only allowed the space, where people allowed them to believe that it was possible. The gifted child is the one that has those spiritual gifts they come out of the womb swinging, come out of the womb with the spiritual gifts, with the sense of knowing. That don't make sense. That's not right. And a sense of like just confidence. But this world will break that confidence down for the sake of putting them in that box. And that's what I experienced in my life. And that's what a lot of other children are experiencing when they get placed into these schools. And this is why I'm a homeschooling mom. I'm going to let y'all go because my phone is going to die. Y'all be sure to tap in, subscribe. More information will be coming just about me, my experience. I'm going to be talking a whole lot more about a whole bunch of different topics. So if you cool with it, subscribe, like, comment. Peace.